welcome back to episode 5 of my little knitting podcast, vlogcast, video, speaky channel thingy. It's so good to welcome you back. And wow, here we are, episode 5, and it's jam-packed with lots of interesting things, I hope. There's a little bit of my trip down to Englandshire to pick up Angus the tortoise with a little woolly stopover on the way. I also take you up more hills to a beautiful little forest up in the hills here and a lovely enchanting little building inside. We've got some weaving in the ends action on my latest fisherman's cap and a few updates on the works in progress and probably a little bit more as we go along. So thank you so much for joining me once again for episode 5. Now let's get on with it. Now, as I start today, time to update you on some of the works in progress, and the main work in progress, which now has a little bit of a time pressure on it, of course, is my daughter's jumper for her birthday, which is the 29th of March. I need to get it finished by then. I'm knitting the Monday sweater, I'm told by my sensible self, by Petite Knits, and I've really been enjoying this. The wonderful thing about it is it's one of those, I'm finding now that I'm past all the raglans and the increases in the German short rows and all that sort of thing, it's now much more of a sort of telly knit, so I can sit and just knit in the round. I'm on the body now, just heading down towards the band at the bottom, the rib band at the bottom before going back to put the arms on. But as you can see, I've made some decent progress on this. There's a little bit of way to go, but it's definitely a work in good progress. And I'm really pleased with it. The wool is knitting up beautifully. I'll put down below what wool I'm using because I can't remember right now. In fact, I can. It's from Woolly Knit. It's Blue Face Leicester from Woolly Knit here in the UK. So I'm really pleased with this. We've had a little bit of an attempt to try it on. I did lose some stitches on the way because I didn't do it sensibly, but I went back, picked them up, phew, everything was okay. So it's looking like it's going to fit my daughter, which is what it's supposed to do, obviously. Helped by the fact that there's a little bit of positive ease built into the sweater, so that's going to give us plenty of room for, you know. Now, last time I said that I was going to knit a simple colourwork cowl. I haven't got anywhere near casting on that simple colourwork cowl, simply because shortly after my last episode, I then did a Sunday night live with many of you on the YouTube channel here to celebrate 5,000 subscribers. And so Julie did the live broadcast thingy, which was great fun. But someone in the comments said, have I ever thought of doing a knit along? And I thought, well, no, I haven't ever thought of doing a knit along, but I could do a knit along. What could I do it on? Well, one of the things that I really enjoy is the patterns and motifs from traditional Ganseys, fishermen's Ganseys, that come from all around the British Isles, but there's a good representation of them here in Scotland. And what I was already thinking about doing is going through that book and making up the squares and the patches with motifs from Scotland in the places where I've lived. So I've started to make some of those shapes, and one of them is this one here, and this is a square which has heapies. Now, these triangles in the fisherman's rib language are called heapies. They heap up on each other, I suppose. And this square here, I hope you can see it, is representative with its heapies of the town of Wick in Caithness, which was one of the places where I was living. And so I already started to experiment with these and decided actually, yeah, let's go for it. Let's use March and have a Gansey Motif knit along. And you may have seen my other video about that. But then I thought to myself, actually, as I was looking around the various patterns which appear in Di Gilpin's wonderful book, Di Gilpin and Sheila Greenwell, there's loads of beautiful patterns in here, absolutely gorgeous. but the Isle of Arran wasn't represented. It's not that the Isle of Arran doesn't have some fishing, although it doesn't have a huge amount of fishing, but how could I run a Gansey Motif knit along without having something to represent the Isle of Arran? And so I branched out in my artistic endeavours and wrote this little document, and with some associated patterns based on the length and the width of some of the patterns in Di Gilpin's book, so I could get the right sort of size for the blanket or the hanging or whatever it is I'm going to make, and then trying to plot in some of Arran's most popular features, I think. So this first one is Arran Distillery. This is a distillery still that are used in 2 places on the island to make whiskey. Number 2 is SANNOX. It's a Celtic cross. Number 3, excuse the ruffling, is Mountains, which has got more heapies. And number 4 is the String Road. That's the main road that goes over the main part of the island. It goes through the mountains, it zigzags through the mountains, it goes through the forest. This is a motif entitled The Tree of Life, and it takes you over from coast to coast, and this is an anchor which represents, of course, the sea. So that was number 4. Number 5 is an outline of the island of Arran, and number 6 is the 3 ferries that serve the island at the moment, and then our new lovely ferry that we are waiting on. Now, of course, I'm very much an amateur when it comes to anything related to design, and especially with these motifs, which are a mixture of knits and pearls. I would say that some of these work up better than others. One of the ones that really works particularly well was the distillery. That's clearly a distillery when you get to the end of the page. And the string is just lovely. I love it. It's got that zigzaggy at the side, and it's got that beautiful tree of life. That's knit up really well. And the ones that are a little bit less successful in my view were the ferries. I wasn't as pleased with that one, but with blocking, it does actually sort of start to show itself for what it is. And I wasn't happy with the original design of the SANNOX, and so I did a few adjustments to that just because of the way that the knits and pearls were behaving. I did a little bit of an update with that and reissued it to those that had purchased it. So I will be knitting up some of these, and have knit them up, and will be going from my swatches to making proper copies with the wool that I've chosen. If you want to get a copy of my patterns, you can get them for just a little £3 or whatever you want to give, and that will support the channel here, and it will also enable you to maybe incorporate some of those Arran, brand new Arran patterns into your Gansey motif. Now, I'm just going to show you some of my attempts at swatches for my own patterns, and this one here, I don't know how I can get you to see this. This one here is a pattern called Mountains. Sorry, it's really difficult to show you this. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better, pointing towards the outside. You can see we have a beautiful mountain range in the north of the island, and those heapies representing our mountain range. And the road, these moss stitch either side, representative of the road that goes all the way round the island. So the string road goes through the middle, and these ones go round the side. Now, I'm not sure how well this one will show up, but this is the SANNOX one, and it's representative of a Celtic cross there in the middle. Again, this is the one that I didn't amend, so this is the one that's been changed, but you can just about make the shape of the Celtic cross out there, and looks okay, I think. And then finally, here's a little squidge at the distillery. You can see this sort of oval place where all the liquid is held, and then this is the sort of bit where the steam comes, where the distilled spirit comes, and then it drops into the whatever they collect it in. So that's a distillery motif. I've had great fun designing them. I've had great fun knitting them up and changing them, and and no little panic sort of putting out that second edition, but it's been great fun. I hope you want to join in the Gansey Motif KAL. If you want to know more about it, have a look at the video that I'll just put a link to here or down below in the comments, and I hope you can join in with that. And I'll also put in the link where you can go and get a copy of those Isle of Arran motifs for yourselves. And it's been so beautiful already on Instagram to see all the things that you're making as part of the Gansey Motif KAL. So thanks for that. Now that's all I've been working on. I've been travelling to get Angus, and we're now going to go over to that very exciting journey all the way down to Englandshire to pick up Angus. Well, here I am in the ferry queue in Brodick, about to board the MV Isle of Arran, and today begins Operation Angus. Yes, I am driving around 8.5 hours today. Well, travelling 8.5 hours, because an hour of that is on the ferry. But travelling 8.5 hours today in the car to go down to near London to pick up the tortoise, who's been without us now for 6 months. And I thought, well, since I'm going somewhere, I might as well have someone to talk to, so I'm bringing you along on the journey. I hope you enjoy it. Now, as you can see, I've driven pretty much to the Scottish-English border to a little place called Gretna Green. And Gretna Green is famous because it being right on the border, it was a place where couples who were having trouble getting married in England in the 1700s would just pop over the border to this blacksmith shop, and there they would be able to celebrate their nuptials, whether they were eloping or whatever. But as you see, it's still quite a tradition today. This young lady is obviously heading to get married with a rather large dress, but with some lovely children. Little guy with his kilt on there. But say for 250 years, people have been coming to Gretna to celebrate their weddings, not just because they're eloping, for all sorts of reasons. In fact, my dad got married here to his current wife, so they're still at it. And nearby there's a big tartan tat shop, is what we call it. Lots of Scottish flavoured stuff. There's some tea towels with your clan crest badge, and some quaichs, which are traditional love cups, sharing cups, often given at weddings and to sign agreements and all sorts of things. And then you have your normal clan badge paraphernalia. You might be able to spot your surname, and you can stick that on your hat or on your wherever you want to stick it, really. But these are quite prominent all the way around the touristy areas of Scotland in particular. You can probably find a little book which will tell you about the history of your surname. Again, you can get these absolutely everywhere in Scotland, especially with those names that have some sort of history here in Scotland. And quite amusing, what they did have is they had this little rack of greetings cards. What's like us, damn few, and they're all did. Some great Scottish phrases on there. Hame, sweet hame, the mountains. We sleek it, Curran, timorous beastie. We'll tack a cup of kindness yet. Sorry you're feeling pilly-wally. All that sort of stuff. Good Scottish flavoured cards. And of course, there is the tartan scarf brigade. You can get a scarf in pretty much any tartan you want, any surname, and a tie to go with it. Although these ones look like children's ties, but aren't they cute? You could just imagine there was on a little person. So there you go, that was Gretna Green. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm in the Yorkshire town of Thirsk, and I'm going to go and squish some yarn in the local yarn shop, which looks really lovely. Well, I was absolutely right. The lovely little yarn shop, which was called You and Yarn, was absolutely lovely. And as is evidenced by the little bag, I did buy some stuff. Well, I have finally arrived down here in deepest Englandshire, just outside London. And that was a fairly long journey. It was 12 hours, but I had some stops on the way, as you saw. But I wanted to show you my yarn because I had a sense from the website that was a lovely like yarn shop, and it was indeed. And in fact, there were some ladies in there knitting around the table, chatting away, and it seemed reasonably oblivious at the fact that this big bloke had walked in. So that's good. That's a change for me going into yarn shops. Usually people are very suspicious. Very suspicious. But they were lovely, and they even chatted, which was really nice. But I did see some yarn because one of the things I'm hoping to do with the Gansey Motif KAL is to knit up loads of motifs into squares and add them to a blanket. I've got some Macri Moor wool, as in sheep from Macri Moor. I've got some of their wool at home. It's an Arran weight, and so what I wanted to do is buy some other Arran weight to add to it, and so I bought these two lovely things. Now the shop in Thirsk is in North Yorkshire, so this is West Yorkshire Spinners, and it's their Jacob variety Arran weight, 100% British wool, and it's titled Fleece. It's actually quite lovely. Doesn't smell very sheepy, but it's a lovely thick Arran weight. I just love these colours. They will go with the creamy Arran weight wool I've got at home quite well. But as you can see, I'm a bit exhausted. I have no words, and tomorrow I pick up Angus, see some friends, and then head back home all the way back up to Ayrshire, and then spending the night with my mum before picking up the shopping. So it's good night from me. The key part of Operation Angus is now underway, and it's time to head back up the road to Scotland. There he is, in his little travel box, ready for Scotland. And here is the said Angus. He's not cooperating today. We've got a view of his backside, and he's saying, I am not talking to you. But he's here, he's at home, he's in his natural environment. And if you hear the odd noise coming from this corner, it's because he is a noisy little beggar. He sometimes rattles around in there, and his shell clatters off the walls on his little climby thing, and his rock over there. He likes to make a bit of a noise now and again. And sometimes if he's really feeling like it being annoying, he comes up and he rattles on the glass. But there you go, Angus is home. Now, as far as seasonality goes, we've been sort of lulled into a false sense of security because the last week, maybe a week and a half, we've had some beautiful sunshine. There's even been some warmth in the sunshine. It's been drier, and all the spring flowers are starting to come out. So you start to feel, oh, spring's coming. And then you look at the weather forecast and you realise that pretty much for 3 or 4 days at the end of this week, we're promised more snow. So winter is returning. We've got some Arctic blast coming from the north. Every time I hear Arctic blast, I think, oh no, it's going to be cold. But because of that, I thought it was definitely time to do some work on my latest Fisherman's Kep. Now, there was someone in all the comments everywhere who said, why don't you do a video of you weaving in those ends? And I thought, well, you don't get out much, do you? You don't get out much, but actually, there's lots of opinions about weaving in ends, aren't there? There are some of you efficient people who love to do it as you go. There are those that, will leave a project sitting on a pile for years because you've got 2 ends to sew in. And then there's the weirdos like me who actually quite enjoy it. And the reason I enjoy it is because it gives that sense of this garment is coming to a conclusion. I love sewing in the ends. Sometimes I think in life we need to sew in some ends. And I'm not just talking about the knitting. There are some things that need to be, sorted, aren't there? But here we go. I'm going to show you how I sew in ends. Now, this is just how I do it. And I've probably picked it up from someone else. So don't go give me any grief because I'm not doing it the way you would do it. Although if you think there's a better way, by all means, eat your heart out and let me know down there in the comments. Okay, so here are all the ends that need sewing in on this kep, and I'll have a nice little time now finishing that off. Now I'm going to start off with the one in the grey, which is on the very brim. So I've picked out my needle from my little pencil case there. Have you seen my pencil case? It's lovely, and my wife bought me it. It's got little Volkswagen camper vans on it. I love it. That's where I keep all my knitting accoutrements, all my bits and bobs basically. So just threading the needle and get it on there. Now I tend to leave rather big ends, you know, probably bigger than I need to. But for this stitch right on the edge, I'm just going to work it into one of the into the back of one of the ribs, and I'll just go in and out, in and out. You probably didn't see that. Again, I'm just going in. Oh, there we are. There we go. I'm in, and you can't see it anyway, but you know what I'm doing. I'm going in and out of the bumps, and that's just the sort of starting edge. And because there's usually a little bit of a gap there when you're starting off, a little bit of looseness. Well, it is for me. I guess it's where you're doing the joining in the round. What I tend to do is use this thread just to go in and out, just to shore up that joining place so that it doesn't become unraveled. So just a few stitches in and out just to add some extra weight there. And then I might just take it down one of the ribs. And then it's over to my trusty Swiss Army knife. And there is the end. And I'll keep that for my ends pile. Now, similar process for the ones that are in the colour, but then not quite, because I tend to do something different with these. And again, I don't know where I've picked this up necessarily. Let's just pick one of these red ones here in the middle, just randomly. Again, it's quite a long end, so I can give it a trim to start with. And just thread it onto the needle. Oh, did you notice that little bit of Scots there? I said, I'm going to thread it onto the needle, which means, in English, I'm going to thread it onto the needle. So there we go. So what I would typically do with an end like this here in the middle, it's in the red bit. So I'd start and I would just work my way down through some of the strands that are in that general vicinity, just to keep it localized. I don't want to create any pulling or bulking in any particular area. I don't want to change the color work on the other side. So I've gone down, and then to secure it, I'm just going to go up diagonally across the stitches. Just like that, going through the middle of the wool, because if you don't go through the middle, you end up going through to the other side and then you've got a strange line. So as you can see, I've taken that diagonally along. So I'll just pull that up till it's not too tight, because again, you'll distort your pattern on the other side, and then just clip it off without making a hole in the hat, because that wouldn't be very good. So that's how I do it. So you see, I've gone down and then I've gone diagonal, and I find that just gives plenty of security in those ends, and you'll never see them on the other side, because say you've gone through the back strands. You're not going through the other side. You're not on the wool on the outside of the hat. You're using those back strands just to feed that wool through and secure them in. I'm going to do another one, for those of you who want to see how that's done. I recognise that not everyone has spent their life sewing in thousands of ends, like me, on the old fisherman's keps. So you might not be one who does this very much. As I say, there are other ways of doing it. There are those who sew in as they go. I even heard, someone even told me the other day that what they do is they take all of their ends through to the outside of the hat, and then they braid them all the way down and sew them in. I mean, that sounded very interesting. It sounded very intricate. I don't know if that's something I would want to do, but it sounded interesting all the same. So different people do different things. So try and show you again. I'm going to go down through the strands at the back there, just picking up 3 or 4, maybe 5. So that's straight down. Give it a gentle tug, not too tight. And then I'm just going to take it up now diagonally. Don't ask me what degree angle that is. I don't know. It's just diagonally. Sorry. I'm a bit of an Amadan, and that means full, by the way. So there we go. I've gone down and I've gone up. And that, friends, is about the extent of it. And I am going to go on now in my quiet little moment here on a Monday and just continue to sew in all those ends, and I'll show you a little bit later when I'm done. Okay, and here we are. This is the last little end. Now I'm just trimming that down there because sometimes if you don't trim that down, you end up with a double weight going through your fabric, and I don't want that because it's hard to get it pulled through without having a sense of it disturbing the stitches. So just chop it off to the best length of what I want to have sewn in the back. Going straight up again, and then just going back down diagonally. Yeah, and there we go. And now the ends are clear, they now have faced their final weaving. Enough of that. Apologies to Frank Sinatra and all the rest. So it's now all completely woven in, and that's the back. Now, of course, you can see at the weaving in point where there's been some weaving in. Some of that will flatten out because the next stage for this hat is to be blocked. So I'll just either damp it or I'll steam it, and then I'll probably stick it on a balloon. And that's a good way to block a hat, get the thing on a balloon to the size of the head that it's going to fit, if you possibly can. I don't know if there's balloons big enough in my department, but never mind. This hat is now pretty much ready for the coming snowstorm. Now, it might be worth talking about some of what I was thinking when I was making this hat, because I definitely did have a particular design inspiration in mind, believe it or not. On the band, I chose these little Celtic looking crosses in those lovely gold and green colours surrounded by the grey there. You'll notice this stripe here, this red and yellow sort of undulating stripe. Well, this is actually representative of the flag of Northumberland, which is an area which used to occupy everything north of the Humber, near Hull, all the way up through Newcastle and the east coast of England by Holy Island, and almost up to Edinburgh at one point. So it was a sort of kingdom that spanned the north of England and Scotland. And so that's representative of the Northumbrian flag. And all these designs and colours, as I was making them, I was thinking about a document that the monks of Lindisfarne created called the Lindisfarne Gospels, and they are beautiful illuminated manuscript with vivid colours, and lots of these kind of colours, this teal green and the reds and the golds, were all infused in those Gospels. And here we have that same motif at the top, the red and yellow undulating stripe with the beautiful green reminiscent of the sea, but also picking up those colours in those Lindisfarne Gospels. So that was actually what was in my mind when I was picking the designs and when I was pulling it all together. So I'm going to call this my Northumberland Saints hat. That's what I'm going to call it, my Northumberland Saints hat, although it's very much a fisherman's cap. But actually, there's a beautiful story recently that's been going on my Facebook. I know a few people who live on the Holy Island over there on the east coast of England. And recently their fishing business, their fishing sort of industry came under threat. There are tender waters over there, but there's all sorts of political stuff going on as well. But they were going to close down the fishing out of Lindisfarne, and the local priest there was sort of up in arms, and she got really involved in the campaign, mobilised the community, helped the fishermen, supported them, and just recently there was a rather victorious picture of them all standing with the priest in front of St Cuthbert's Island, looking out to sea, having secured the rights of the fishermen. If the fishing industry had gone from that part of the world and from that community, it would have been absolutely devastating. So here's a big cheer to the Holy Isle fishermen. Isn't that a great story? Now, making this video podcast has been an absolute joy to me in these last few months. It's given me lots of things to look forward, lots of things to think about in terms of getting you out and about. It's created a lot of fun for me. It's been great to interact with you all, and I have no intentions of stopping. As long as I've got the time to do it, as long as it's fun, as long as it's giving you some joy, I'm committed to it. And thank you so much for everyone who has liked and subscribed and turned on your notifications. If you haven't done that, I hope you will still think about doing that. Thank you also to those who have gone over to Coffee, I don't know how you pronounce it, coffee.com. I'll put the link just down below, where I've got my little site where I'm selling the patterns, the Gansey patterns, but also where some of you have just been buying me a coffee. I have introduced some levels of membership, monthly membership, if you would like to support me in keeping this channel going. I'm using the very basic elements of technology. I'm only using my phone. I have no fancy lights, nothing like that, and nor do I think I necessarily need them. But as the podcast develops, it would be great to be able to do other things with it and to improve the quality of it for you. Also, as I've said before, life here on the Isle of Arran is precarious. It is a little bit more expensive, and I'm working for two charities who can afford me for now, but won't necessarily always be able to do that. And so actually contributing through the content that I'm making here actually helps to make my life and our family's life here more sustainable. I didn't think for a second that I'd be in the place of even thinking that that might be a possibility. But if you enjoy these episodes and you want to support, I would love to have your support in that way. But please know that I'm here for the good long term, and it's just an absolute delight to have you along. Thank you so much for your support. Now, I know how much you love seeing me suffer for the art, and I'm about to take you up to a beautiful spot on the island for a little walk. See you there. Those white buildings just down the hill, one is the old Kildonnan Parish Church where my great-grandfather and great-grandmother were married. And just the other week there, I heard a beautiful story about weddings, especially in this part of Arran, down here on the south. What would normally happen is that on the wedding day, the couples, they may be several villages apart, but they would set out on their wedding day and they would head towards each other, and wherever they met on the path, that was the nearest village where they would be, and that was where they got married. So I don't know if that's what my great-grandparents did, but they were married just down the hill there in that church, which is now a house of our friends, actually. But I heard a lovely story about the weddings that would take place here on the south of the island, and one of those was this. The families of each of the wedding party would contribute wool and fleece and old blankets, and that would all be added together and recarded and made into a new blanket for the new couple. I just thought that was a beautiful story and glad to be able to tell it to you. And in the distance there, you can see a little island. That is the Isle of Plada. It was recently on the market for £350,000. It could be yours with its house and its lighthouse. And on the horizon there, you see a little rock sticking just on top of the horizon. That's Ailsa Craig. That's where many, many curling stones are hewn from that rock. Just in front of where I'm standing is the car park for Eas Mòr. There's a waterfall here and there's a rather beautiful, spectacular little building that I hope to show you when I get up there. I'm told it's quite a hike, but I'm all ready. I'm set for it. I'm ready to suffer for my art. Here we go. Now, to be fair to myself, in case I should sound as if I'm out of breath at any point, this is a fairly steep walk, even by people who are quite frequent walkers. And to be perfectly honest with you, I could do with losing a few pounds, so you're spurring me on to all sorts of exciting endeavours, so well done you. Well, that was quite a climb, but I think we're at the highest part of it now, and quite pleased to have made it. What a beautiful, beautiful spot. Now, this is not a sign you'd expect to find up here in the hills, but I've come up here to see the library and to show you around. I've never been before, so I don't know quite what to expect other than what I've heard, but let's go and have a look. So here we are. This quaint little place is called the library, and it has books of the most surprising nature. Well, this has been a beautiful and much needed antidote to all the city dwelling and driving and traffic that I've endured for the last few days, and I'm glad you could join me up here at Eas Mòr to the little library in the forest. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that little walk up Eas Mòr, up to the little library in the forest as much as I did. It was very steep, but I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed the invigoration of getting myself up there. It gave me a real buzz, and it was beautiful to arrive at that little spot and to be able to show you around. Now, I'm going to give you your Gaelic lesson for the episode now. And it's a good thing in any language to be able to say good morning, good afternoon, and sometimes even good night. So that's what we're going to cover today very quickly. So if you want to say good morning to someone in Scottish Gaelic language, you say mating va, mating va. Now you'll notice that those two N's at the end of that word are doubled, of course, and that is what creates the soft end to that word, mating. Mating, it's that sort of at the back of your throat somewhere, matting. It makes the ends so it's not matin, it's matting. And then the next word, you see it begins with MH, and you think, how on earth is that supposed to make va? Well, simply because the H makes the M say V. It's very special, isn't it? So good morning is matting va, matting va. If you want to say good afternoon, it's almost completely different. Obviously, you're changing your morning to afternoon, but the second word is different. So good afternoon is fesker ma, fesker ma, and there you've got the original version of the word good, ma, good. Fesker is afternoon, ma is good. Unlimited, unchanged by the vowels in the previous word, and so keeping the original form ma, fesker ma. Now, if you want to say good night, we're changing back to the va. So to say good night is oike va, oike va. And you'll see there's extra D's and H's and all sorts of things in that word. Don't worry about it a little jot, because what's the Gaelic word without a D and an H? That's what you have to say. What is a Gaelic word without a D and an H? Just to make it look tidy, to give it a nice shape and a nice form, but it's not pronounced. Oike va, and that is good night. So mating va, fesker ma, and oike va. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. And on that note, it's time to say Martian Leven Drasta, Agus Bianach Jegut. Bye for now, and God bless.